Here's something I wanted to briefly comment on. Apparently, Texas just lifted their restrictions, and I'm not exactly sure to what extent, if it's like completely, like going back to 2019 kind of life, or I mean, I'm unclear. I mean, it sounds like they're opening stuff back up, 100% capacity in stores and stuff. I'm not exactly sure on all the details, but this is something that just raises my eyebrows, like, and I just wanted to stop by to share my thoughts about it. I never expected to see any news like this early from anywhere in the world, and I just thought it was really interesting that this news is coming from the same place that not even a month ago was ravaged with or ravaged by unseasonably, or not just unseasonably, but just cold temperatures, you know, beyond anything they're used to experiencing. So the first thing that occurred to me was, okay, is this like, Texas was targeted with like just completely frigid cold that they're not used to less than not even a month ago. And it's like, now are they being targeted, set up for failure with this situation of coming out of restrictions this soon? I mean, one can only assume that that's the case. So I wanted to just make a quick recording to share my thoughts about that. And if you're in Texas, not to fearmonger or get people worried or anything, but I'm just trying to. You might want to, I don't know, be prepared for them saying that. Obviously, I mean, they did this last year, when they closed things down and they opened stuff up, and they say we opened up too soon. And if you're familiar with the Event 201 simulation and Clade X and stuff, you'll know that that's exactly part of the simulation that they already did and all this and that. But one can only assume that they're just setting Texas up for huge failure and possibly even more harsh restrictions. They're gonna use this situation as saying, see, this is why we can't ease the restrictions this year or maybe ever. They're gonna, they like to do this where they do something, and then they say everything goes wrong. And, let's be clear, nothing even has to go wrong. I mean, that's what this whole situation, in my opinion, has been this whole year, is nothing really changing out there in the world, just them saying on their screens and little, media devices that stuff is going on. That's the power of media, and it's just unbelievable how they can just have people say things on their screens, be it TV, phone, tablets, whatever, and people just think that just because these frauds are saying this shit, it must mean this shit's happening. But I just wanted to, make this recording just to basically let people know my thoughts, and hopefully I'm wrong. But let's face it, I mean, it just, I don't think this is going to turn out good for Texas, and I just don't understand why, you know, they're targeting Texas. I just don't get it. Maybe it's because it's like isn't Texas known as like the lone state or something like that, or the only state that hasn't joined the union or something like that. I don't know why Texas is getting all this targeting all of a sudden, but yeah, just be mindful, be aware that it might you might say, oh boy, this is a good sign. I mean, finally don't have to cover your face in stores anymore, and all this and that. And it just, another thing that occurred to me, I wonder how many people are still going to be doing it. I bet you the majority of people are still going to be covering their faces in stores and doing all this shit just because they're so afraid. That would be an interesting thing to find out, or to poll, or to how many people are still going to be covering. I'd say 75% minimum of people in stores, even if they lift, in Texas supposedly they lifted the restrictions. I bet you 75% at least of people in stores are still going to be covering their face. And you'll probably, they'll probably give people that don't a hard time. I remember being in a store last year before the face covering mandate was even in place for stores, and having some woman give me a look and possibly like this, this, this exhale in disgust of like, oh my God, you're risking my life and everyone's lives because you're not putting a piece of cloth or, paper cloth over your face. And it's just like, and that was before the shit was even mandated. So it just seems like, we all know that they love to, one of their biggest mottos is divide and conquer. And we just know they love to divide people over everything, and they can be divided over. And let's face it, I mean, they've just created things that normal people would have no idea that anyone could be even divided over, something like the face covering thing. And what a great way to just cause more strife and chaos in society by, let's say they did a nationwide restriction. They just took the restrictions away nationwide, and all of a sudden you'd have people, who aren't covering their faces being harassed by people that are, and all this strife. And it's just like, oh my God. So this will be, keep your eye on Texas to see what the hell comes from this horse shit. One can only assume they're setting Texas up for failure, and probably it's something to point at later and say, see, we can't, lift restrictions this year, or maybe they'll take it further. We can never lift restrictions. I don't know. All I know is, as I've already said, I mean, we're in really shit creek times, and oh my God. And it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. So I guess that pretty much does it. Keep your eye on Texas, see what the hell develops from this, situation. It's most likely not going to be a good one.